Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch One, and thanks for logging on. Today I am coming to you from our South Florida headquarters with my colleague Rafael Dominguez.
Pleasure to be here, Tim.
He's our inventory specialist and our platforms specialist and a fellow watch enthusiast. Now, this is This Week in Watches, and we're going to examine the week that was in new model debuts, watch trends, and news. But first, I want to give a shout out to my friends here in the South Florida area. Now, as I make more of these live broadcasts, I'm not going to be able to make as many of the Talking Hands showcase videos that built our Watch You Want Inc. YouTube channel. If you're a watch enthusiast, you know how to research a watch and communicate your passion, then come steal my job. I want you for my team. Come in here, email me at tim@watchyouwant.com or call in on our website. I want you for Watch You Want Inc. Now today, I want to jump into our broadcast This Week in Watches with a question that's always recurring. What are we wearing? Raf, what are you wearing?
I am wearing my most recent acquisition, which I am in love with, and it is my Longines pulsometer chronograph. It's a beautiful dress piece, and I literally can't stop wearing it, even at work.
Yeah, I think Raf took that one out of circulation after I filmed the video.
Perks of the job.
It's got everything going on. Mono pusher, column wheel movement, exclusive to Longines, a gorgeous lacquered dial with hand-painted Arabic numerals, beautiful blued hands, Breguet style. This is an example of what Longines does so well and why I think Longines is really now in the position that Omega was in circa 1999-2000. Really the best value in mainstream watches and the most rugged, durable, and in many cases most complicated movement for the money.
Exactly, and the rugged point that you touched on is something I think is very important, and this guy's a beater. It'll take it and it'll keep running.
Plus 52-hour powers are a very impressive piece from Longines, a company that really has it all going on. So what am I wearing? Well, I am wearing my Master Grand Memovox from JLC. It's a 41.5mm platinum perpetual calendar alarm. Now, you may wonder, why am I wearing an alarm when I have an entire production team led by my producer, Faylene Jerome, to remind me where to go and when to go? The bottom line is that I am actually not here. Well, I am here, but not when you're watching this. I'm in New York right now, authenticating a package of 100 watches. Authentication, appraisal, review and survey, that's actually what I do when I'm not making videos here. So because I can't be here live, we're recording this video, and that's why I'm wearing an alarm watch to remind me when to wake up in New York.
Gotta have your bases covered when that phone's not plugged in, Tim.
Yeah.
Back to the old school ways. Exactly.
I don't trust phones, I don't trust electronics, I put my faith in springs, wheels, and hands, and a bronze gong alarm, I may add. Now,
a wise man for it, certainly.
We're ridiculous here. So the bottom line is that we're going to jump into the week that was up to Wednesday. So assuming there were no significant deaths, births, new model debuts, or economic catastrophes, or floods, fires, mudslides, or natural disasters, this was the week that was. First and foremost, we're talking about Panerai, a company best known for sports watches.
And massive watches.
And massive watches. And steel watches for the most part. Now this week, Panerai announced 4 new watches, all of them a little bit dress-oriented. The 688, the 689, the 690, and the 659. Collectively, I'm going to call them the blues, because they have that in common. A blue sunburst dial, not totally different from my own Grand Memovox, maybe more intense, because blue is the de rigueur color in watchmaking today. I talked in a previous episode about how the watch industry is trying to find unexploited market niches. Essentially, companies that were at the high end moving to the low end, companies that marketed to older clients looking for younger clients, companies known for precious metal timepieces going steel. Well, Panerai is known for sports watches and big watches, and a lot of these watches tone that down. I mean, what are you feeling, Raf, on the 688, the 690, the 689?
I gotta tell you, the 690 is tugging at my heartstrings right now. This beautiful sunburst blue dial on that Cafa Salutamonte strap is just beautiful.
Now it's important to note that the 690 is probably the least complex of these watches. All of them are limited editions. Now the 690 is the one that is 3-hand time, what would be considered a Marina dial on a Panerai Luminor, albeit this one is a Radiomir 1940. Now the 690 is being made in 500 pieces. Respectively, the 688 is 300, the 689 is 300, the 690 is going to be 500, and I think that's because Panerai knows that's the winner of the group.
For sure.
A steel watch, very accessible compared to the 659, which is a 200-piece limited edition with a 10-day power reserve, a GMT, reserve de marche indicator on the dial, and yes, a $35,900.
I gotta say, I was also glad to hear that the 688 is 42 millimeters. Panerai, not forgetting about those smaller wristed watch aficionados out there. Certainly a good point.
Yeah, the Paneristi like myself and Raf with pencil wrists, we really appreciate that 42 millimeter case. Now, IWC is also moving into the realm of blue watches, but subtle.
Slightly more subtle than Panerai, as we just saw.
Now, my own videos notwithstanding, I can't say I'm much of a fan of independent film. Raf, how about you?
Not particularly, if I have to be honest, but I am definitely a fan of this new Spitfire.
So yes, it's an IWC Pilot Spitfire, a special edition for the British Film Institute. Now in its 60th year, IWC is a partner and has been for several years of the Institute, and this particular piece, based on the Spitfire platform, so applied numerals, higher grade grained dial, guilloche cut. This one is a 60-piece limited edition featuring IWC's in-house flyback caliber 89365, 68-hour power reserve, flyback chronograph, a nice balanced bi-compax vertically aligned dial with a mono counter at 12 o'clock for hours and minutes. It's a handsome piece, and it's a welcome addition to a collection if you like the IWC Spitfires. You don't need to know anything about the British Film Institute, but as you can see from the picture-in-picture, it is a nice tribute if you are of that persuasion. And it's always nice to have a backstory.
As always, you gotta have something to talk about when somebody asks you or compliments you on your wrist piece.
Yeah, or if you have absolutely nothing else to say, a watch is a great conversation starter.
Always.
Now, from the world of IWC and the contemporary timepieces, we take a step back, and this is much more in the vein of Raf's Longines, a historic tribute. So I'm going to let you lead off on the Eterna 1948 Reveil Heritage.
Eterna has just released a beautiful, and I gotta call it beautiful because the first time I saw it I was struck, a beautiful 1948 Reveil alarm watch. Now, visually beautiful, as I mentioned. Once you take a look at the price tag, I think you'll fall even more in love with the watch.
Yeah, and it's really worth mentioning that Eterna is a true manufacturer and a great one. In the 1920s, ETA was actually spun off as a division of Eterna, so in a way Eterna kind of gave birth to a monster. But it remains based in Grenchen, right across from ETA to this day, and they make beautiful movements, such that I can honestly say that this new steel Eterna 1948 Reveil is of the same grade that you'll find in this JLC Master Memovox. Now this is JLC's entry-level Memovox. Steel, 40 millimeters, manufacturer movement, manufacturer case, retail price of $10,300. The Eterna, new with warranty, lists for $5,000.
I don't even know what to say. You rarely see an in-house caliber alarm watch for under the 10, and at half of that, $5,000. That's one to pick up soon for sure.
It's a great watch because if you look at the two pillars of alarm watches, now many companies make alarms to this day, but when you talk about the icons, you're talking about JLC with the Memovox, you're talking about Vulcain with the Cricket, and the JLC starts at 10.3, the Vulcain, the most basic watch they've got, the President's 1950 in steel. That watch lists for $9,975. Again, Eterna undercutting both of these legends by, I mean, almost 50%. It's an impressive watch, and I'll even say that with the Corne de Vache style lugs, this is a case form elegant enough to be worthy of Vacheron.
Certainly. Certainly is.
Look into that one because it's really special. Handsome eggshell dial with Arabic numerals, vintage inspired, good size at 40 millimeters. It can still pull dress duty very easily, but you can also wear it on a contemporary ensemble. It doesn't look like a quarter strapped to your wrist, and that's a problem that the real 1950s alarm watches do have many times. Now from the accessible, we go to the incredible. Raf knows where this is going.
We're going to a different stratosphere, as Tim likes to put it.
Yeah, this is the thing about the top of the market. It's a little bit loopy, and we're looking at a special edition of a watch that I have never seen, but if you've ever seen Ariel Adams' book, The World's Most Expensive Watches, a little bit of clickbait if you've ever seen that title online, Ariel. You're a clever guy. But the bottom line is the cover features a watch featuring jumping hours and minutes by 4N. Now, 4N is a company spearheaded by Franois Content. First showed their digital jumping hour, jumping minute watch in 2010. With the help of Audemars Piguet Renoir Papy, they got it to work by 2013. Today, they're offering you a grand total of 3 watches in any color you want with a sapphire case as long as you like green, orange, and blue.
I think it's definitely interesting seeing this, let's call it a smaller brand, going after what we saw earlier in the year with Hublot and the Richard Milles with the Sapphire cases. It's testy, but I think they pulled it off.
It looks good. I'll say that it's more convincing than some of the other watches made in a sapphire case, because it's one thing to case a traditional watch in an alien material. And Zenith, with your Sapphire Type 20 pilot, I'm looking at you. But having a spectacular watch in a sapphire case, it's an alien machine in an alien package, and it works. Now, they're making 3 of them, and they're retailing for $307,000, but I understand that Franois Content will actually fly anywhere in the world to present the watch to you if you buy it.
He better for that price.
Yeah, that's white glove treatment. So honestly, if you're the type who owns a Gulfstream, you can meet with another guy who flies a Gulfstream and get a really cool watch at the same time.
Quite an experience.
514 pieces, 78 joules. It has a 237-hour power reserve. And hopefully you'll get your mileage out of every single one of them because you're paying per hour. Now, from the spectacular and unobtainable, we move to the spectacular and unobtainable by virtue of scarcity. 3 4Ns look awfully, may I say, prolific next to the Linde Werdelin Piece Unique Oktopus Reef.
That's quite, Piece Unique really is the title for that one. What I particularly like about this piece is, or probably Linde Werdelin's pieces in general, they have a theme going, but in this guy, they've made it particularly...
Well, their theme, what Raf's talking about is they have a watch that is modular. You can stick a dive computer or a land sports computer on it. From the first by-4 meter to the 2009 Oktopus to the 2012 Oktopus 2, Linde Werdelin watches are neither Hublot nor AP. They sort of plow their own lone furrow with additions between 1 piece, as in the case of this Oktopus Reef, and perhaps 88 pieces. You never see a lot of them, but the bottom line is they're kind of a giant killer, a British, Danish, and Swiss hybrid, playing in the kind of the giant sandbox with AP and Hublot. And this is an interesting piece because, like the 59-piece Oktopus Moonlight Tattoo, this is completely hand engraved.
Wow.
Unlike that one, they're only making 1 of these. I also want to call out a JLC Eclipse. Now, this is a follow-on to the 2009 Eclipse series, where basically you have a JLC Reverso. We know it, we love it, but a unique shutter system that's actuated by a roller slide on the flank of the case withdraws a sort of curtain that reveals an enamel base to the dial. Now, initially, it was a series of enamel images based on late Middle Ages, early Renaissance masters, but this is actually Vincent van Gogh, and a very specific one. I mean, Raf, you saw the Eclipse. What did you think of it?
I had a good look at it. I got to tell you, if a JLC, especially, particularly the reversos, if those weren't already easy to identify on somebody's wrist, now it's going to be even easier to catch.
Yeah, 2 things. 1, it's big. 2, it's a picture of Vincent van Gogh on your wrist. Now, it's painted by Miklos Merkzel, who is the enameling master of JLC. He actually started as a watchmaker, and he helped JLC to recover the art of enameling in the early 90s. He now leads a department within JLC, so he's no longer a one-man band, but he is handling this commission. 4 pieces for the JLC Dutch distributor, Gessan Diamonds. It makes sense, Vincent van Gogh being Dutch. 4 of these specially commissioned enamel Van Gogh self-portrait recreations set within Platinum Reverso Eclipse models will be offered, and they are spectacular pieces offered exclusively through Gessan. It's one of those deals where if you have to ask, you probably can't afford it, and frankly, I don't even know what they're asking.
I'm not sure we want to know, but we definitely want to have a good look at them.
Yeah, I would like to see one in person, so hey, I got pre-owned dibs on that. Through Watch You Want, please, if you ever decide to sell, whoever you are, plutocrats of the world, give me first right of refusal. Bottom line, spectacular work from JLC. The parent firm of JLC, a little bit beset. Now, I spoke a bit about currents in the Swiss watch industry in our last This Week in Watches. Bottom line, it's not good. There's been a continuous decline in export value and volume since January of 2015, and it pretty much looks like a staircase moving down in steps. Now, Richemont's an interesting company because it's very big and very public, so you know everything that's happening. And I want to give a shout out to the best article that I read in the watch space this week. It was by Sapphire Planet of MoneyWeb, and she surveyed industry experts. She performed an overlook of the industry as a whole, specific underperforming markets, especially those in the Far East led by Hong Kong. She got some real third-party insights, wove it all together in the context of Richemont's declining fortunes at the moment. But there were some interesting gems in there, such as Richemont perhaps still overperforming as a stock relative to the rest of the market. The bottom line is, since its high in November of 2015, it's down from approximately 86 Swiss francs to about 59. So while the trend is down, I think the article was pessimistic in the short term, but perhaps sanguine in the long term.
We gotta hope as watch aficionados that Richemont, is gonna get their act together, if you will, because they're so widespread. They have so many branches under them. Linde, one of my particular favorites. These brands are putting out masterpieces, and we want to continue seeing them.
Yeah, honestly, we want to continue to see Richemont push the limit when they own brands like JLC, Panerai, IWC, but also
the
Cartier.
Fan favorites.
Yeah, of course. Cartier, Montblanc, Van Cleef & Arpels, 20% of Grubel Force. Also, Valfleurier, their internal kind of white label movement manufacturer, Piaget, Roger Dubuis, Dunhill, and half of Ralph Lauren watches, which I have to say are actually underrated as timepieces. Richemont is an important bellwether of the industry, and Sapphire Planet absolutely nailed her journalism, her reporting on Richemont and the current economic climate in the watch world. Definitely check it out. Sapphire Planet on MoneyWeb, Richemont's fortunes. I want to close with a question that we received on bezels and specific types of bezels, what's safe to use underwater, and what are the types of bezels broadly. Now, this grew out of our discussion of water resistance. Ralph, I know you've got one watch for us here that is completely non-water resistant, and it starts with the bezel.
It is this guy. We have our UN Freak 2. Now, beautiful piece. Don't even dare take it in the shower.
Throw that in front of our macro camera right there. Yeah, you can see that gorgeous carousel movement.
And
not a tourbillon.
Do want to show, lift the little tab down here, little adjustments for those of you curious how to set the time on the Freak. And the main reason why it's not water resistant is right there, ladies
Exactly.
and
You've got a bezel that doubles as the time setting mechanism. It literally pivots the carousel. You can see the watch as an example of a bezel that should never be submerged. Now, there are other watches of this sort, minute repeaters such as those by Corum that use a rotating bezel instead of a repeater slide. Also, there are some Rolex watches that use a ring command bezel, and while it is water resistant and the water resistance is robust, you should not actuate the ring command. You should not turn the bezel on a Yachtmaster 2 or a Sky Dweller when the watch is wet or submerged. Now, there are other types of bezels, and it's important to note that as long as there's no mechanical interlink between the inside of the watch and a bezel, using it in the water, even if it's a bidirectional non-diving bezel, as on this Fortis B47, is not going to compromise the watertight integrity of the watch. Now, this is a GMT style bezel. It's used to offset from GMT to find the times and cities around the world. And likewise, the unidirectional rotating bezel on this Rolex Submariner can be rotated without compromising the watertight integrity of the watch. Now, it's important to note that when you are rotating the dive watch's bezel, you can only shorten your dive as long as it's unidirectional rotating, not prolong it, and you will not compromise the water resistance of the watch. Now, there is a watch that is a little bit of a hybrid. This is an internal rotating bezel. It should not be actuated underwater. This is a Audemars Piguet Royal Oak offshore diver. It's a reference 15703 ST. Now, you can see that there's a special crown that is used to ratchet the unidirectional rotating bezel. It can compromise the water resistance when the watch is underwater if you use it submerged or wet. But the bezel itself, being internal, again, that's perfectly immune from the effects of water intrusion as long as the crown is screwed down. So you basically have four types of bezels. One that's connected to the movement, never use that in the water or when wet. The bidirectional rotating bezel and the unidirectional bezel, these are not mechanically linked to the movement. They can be actuated safely when wet or submerged. And finally, the internal rotating bezel. This is usually actuated with some sort of external lever or crown. Don't actuate this when submerged, but once set, it is safe. I'm Tim Masso. This has been Watch You Want Inc.'s This Week in Watches. Raphael, thank you so much for being on the program.
My pleasure, Tim. Glad to be here. Looking forward to coming back.
This guy's a trooper. I'm Tim Masso. This is Watch You Want Inc., and thanks for logging on.